everyone, it's Andrew. I'm here with Charlie and it's that time of the month for our Super Chewer box for February 2022. Before we start, if you can just hit the like and subscribe button, that'd be awesome. For those of you that haven't seen my videos before, typically what I do is first go over last month's toys, which was the Spa Day themed box. You can refer to that video for the initial unboxing of those toys. And then what we'll do is go over this box today, which is probably a Valentine's Day themed box, given it's February. But first we'll go over the toys from last month. So if you don't recall, we had 3 separate toys, which are all right here. So first was the bubbler, then the leaf thrower, and then this was the throw in the towel toy. We'll start off with the bubbler. So the bubbler, if you recall, was this kind of like Kong themed toy. It's like clear kind of plastic, I guess, or nylon. It had 2 separate openings in it. One was this like circular 2-centimeter hole here, and then there was another one here. Charlie absolutely loved this toy. What I ended up doing was I ended up throwing peanut butter initially into these holes, and he kind of went after the peanut butter, but the issue is the holes are too small, and so he couldn't lick the peanut butter out, so it kind of just sat in there, so I had to wash it out and get rid of it. Then I ended up trying to throw in like small treats in it, but they would consistently fall out, and so it was too easy and he wouldn't engage with it. And so the last thing I ended up doing, which worked pretty effectively, was breaking up the chew sticks that come with the Super Chewer box and breaking them up and putting them into these holes. It kind of lodged into this, and he went after these toys for nonstop for days, like relentless chewing it on it consistently to try to get it out, to the point where I felt bad for him and I got the treat out for him. But it was pretty consistent where it got lodged in there and he'd go after it and be engaged with it and things like that. So this toy took a beating. As you could tell, probably about 2 nights ago, I put in like some more treats and it lifted up here and started cracking here. But throughout the toy, there's like damage here. There's cracking along the edge here, cracking here. But he's a very strong chewer, and he chewed on this for probably 3 to 6 days straight, nonstop throughout the month. But he loved it. It held up pretty well. It definitely got its money worth, but the recommendation I would have is throw something in there that can get stuck a little bit more, and that'll be a good treat for that. But typically like peanut butter or anything like that didn't really work well for that. So that's the bubbler. The next one is the leaf thrower. So that's this toy. If you recall, it's like kind of this canvas-based toy with this strap on it. And there's some sort of rubber in here that squeaks a little bit, like that. As I expected, he didn't really engage with this toy much because the canvas is pretty strong, so it doesn't tear off easily. So he's like ripped off, like, or chewed into this part here. You can kind of see, and then on the edge here, and you can kind of see what's in there. But it's not a very versatile toy because it's not necessarily a chew toy. It's something the dog can like chase after, which if your dog likes to retrieve, this would be useful for that. But the issue is it doesn't really function as like a tug toy. So we did that a little bit, but the issue is like it's held by just like kind of weak stitching here, and so it ripped a little bit, and I didn't really treat it as a tug toy because of that. And he's not really a dog that retrieves much, so we didn't get much use out of this. But there is a toy still in there that does squeak. Maybe if I got this out, he might play with it more, but that's the leaf thrower. And then the last one was the throw in the towel toy. So if you recall, this was like a cloth towel looking thing wrapped around this, and underneath that was this purple squeak toy. And so it's like a squeaker, like it was a squeaker. Essentially, the thing about this toy was the towel around it was very similar to like a towel or washcloth material, which was surprising. And so Charlie, within the first hour, started tearing that off. And I was surprised about this toy because the towel pieces actually came off very shredded. So it was shredded pieces, very stringy, and I was surprised that Super Chewer would do something like that because it could be potentially very hazardous to your dog if they are prone to swallowing it or get it stuck in their mouth and swallow it like haphazardly or accidentally. So I watched Charlie very closely with that aspect of it. And I would be very hesitant if you get this toy with leaving your dog unsupervised with it just because it's shredded off. Typically, the majority of the toys like this that Super Chewer sends, it'll kind of rip off and the cloth will stay intact. It won't shred like that. And so that's one thing with this toy I was very worried about. But underneath it was this kind of like, I guess it looks like a block of soap, but it's like this purple, now slightly discolored toy. It's rubber essentially, and it did squeak, but he played with this for like 2-3 days nonstop. The squeaker held up, but then he always somehow breaks it, so if you listen, it doesn't squeak anymore. But that's the throw in a towel toy. There's a little bit of like tooth or kind of bite marks on this edge, and then he's chewed it a little bit, but he'll still grab this randomly and play with it, but not as much now that the squeaker's gone. So those are the 3 separate toys from last month. What we'll do now is open up the box for this month and see what's in store for the February 2022 box. Okay, so here's the February 2022 box. We'll open it up now. And so as I anticipated, it's a Valentine's Day themed box. So it says Sweetie Pie's Big Barkery. Shows this picture on the front. And we'll take a look at what toys. Wow, it's really pink. Okay, so there should be 3 separate toys in this box. We'll go over the toys first. So first off, this is called the Shred Velvet Cake. So what it is this velvet cake with a heart kind of design on it. It's got it's very similar like felt feel on the bottom here with this cloth on the top. And then underneath it is some sort of rubber toy. It feels like there's like edging underneath, so it's probably like multiple edges of rubber underneath. Let's see if it squeaks. I think it squeaks, but I can't get it to squeak. And then we'll look if it squeaks. Maybe it does. So as you see, natural rubber core, 2 layers of play with the cloth on the outside. Does have some sort of squeaker, but I can't personally squeak it in my hands. And it's going to be a wacky wobbler, so the edges on the top and bottom are rounded. So once he takes off this cloth, it'll kind of wobble. So that's the Shred Velvet Cake. Next we have this toy, which is called the Raspberry Candy Tug. And so, oh, that's interesting. So essentially it's this canvas kind of, I guess, tug with multiple pieces of rubber on it, which is an interesting toy. We'll see if it holds up, but essentially it's like rubber on this edges here, and then there's the canvas on it, so it can act as a tug toy. Charlie does like tugging and chewing, like tug of war type toys. So we'll see if this holds up. My concern potentially will be is if the threading here comes apart and this comes apart, but if it does, essentially we'll have 2 separate rubber toys, which usually does play with stuff like that. But that's the Raspberry Candy Tug, so that's that toy. And then we should have a separate toy. So this is interesting because, okay, so this is the Treat Your Heart Out. So this is a solid nylon toy with grooves in it and then grooves on the edge shaped in a heart. The only thing that's interesting though is I specifically have talked to Super Chewer and asked not to get nylon toys like this because Charlie doesn't play with these at all. So it should be within our subscription to not get toys like this, simply because it's too hard, so he'll end up not chewing it at all. So I'll have to reach out and probably get this replaced because it's in our subscription already, which is kind of disappointing. But this is essentially a nylon toy. You could probably put peanut butter or some treat on this, and the dog might go after it. But what I find from our personal experiences, these are too hard for him, where he just doesn't express interest in it. So he probably won't play with this at all. But that's the Treat Your Heart Out toy. I'll have to reach out and get this replaced probably. So that's that. And then, as always, you got 2 separate treat sticks. So this is the beef recipe one, which we've gotten before, and another beef recipe one. These are what I was talking about as far as throwing in the bubbler. So it's these hard sticks that are a treat. You can break these apart and then throw it in the bubbler, and that worked pretty well for last month. And then as far as our treat bags this month, it's the Jerky Bars Turkey Recipe. I think we've gotten this in the past, but it's this soft jerky that I use a lot for breaking up and using when I'm cutting his nails. He's very receptive to that, so I'll use that. So that's the Jerky Bars Turkey Recipe. And then this is the Jerky Bars beef recipe, which is very similar, just beef as far as the makeup of that. So we'll go over one more time. So we got the Jerky Bars beef recipe as well as the turkey recipe. We got 2 separate beef recipe sticks, which are the same thing. We got the shred velvet cake, which is the squeaker kind of with the cloth design on the outside. And then we've got in the raspberry candy tug toy. And then lastly, this nylon treat your heart out toy, which I'll probably have to replace. So pretty good haul, interesting design. Charlie will probably like this the most out of all of them, so I'll give that to him now. So here you go, bud. Take it. Okay, good boy. So that's really all we have for this month. If you have questions or comments, please post them below. And as always, I'm an affiliate member with Super Chewer. So if you're interested in signing up for the boxes through the subscriptions, there's different offers throughout the month that I'll post in the description below. So if you're interested in signing up, you can do that. And that part of that comes back to me to support my channel, which I always appreciate. So thanks for watching, and I hope you have a good month.